Hey everybody, this is Jeff with the Embroidery Nerd, and today we will be going over Pulse Composer, and we're going to talk about a monogram. I'm going to show you guys how I built this monogram here. We'll go through kind of the settings that I'm going to use, the application that's going to go on, and maybe if you're lucky, I'll snap some pictures of the sew out at the end for you guys to take a look at. Let's go ahead, and I'm going to delete this here because this isn't actually the file I'm going to run. I'm going to digitize the file that we are going to run, and I want to do it as a monogram. So we are in the composer level to do a monogram. That is going to be this 3-letter monogram up here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a baseline. And I'm going to go 25, 75. Let's go about 75 millimeters, which is going to be about 3 inches. So we'll do about 75 millimeters there. And this is just rough guesstimation off of my head. We'll do that, and then I'm going to also go up about, 70, 75 millimeters as well. Let's kind of make it a little bit square. Now it's going to ask me my text. My text here is going to be the 3 initials. It is going to be first, last, and then middle, I do believe is how that goes. If not, let me know in the comments. We hit OK, and now we have our font here. We've got our object properties over here. You can see our height. We can see the text width, the monogram, percentage, envelope, font, text justify, all of those options there, as well as we've got some of it up here with, our trim type, our closest point, text justify, pull comp, all of that's up there. But to actually edit this, the first thing I'm going to look at is it's 121 millimeters wide, roughly, and 77.87 millimeters tall. It's going to give me my dimensions there. It is locked to scale. But I want to double click on it actually while it's selected, and it's going to bring up the segment settings for me here. And I've already looked kind of through the fonts a little bit. You can scroll through, you can see how they pop up on the right, and they do have some monogram fonts, and the monogram fonts have these decorations that can be put around them. So we'll go ahead, and as we slowly go through here, you can see each font is, we've got borders here, Braille. They're all listed. And the one that I wanted here, and I'm just double checking my note here, is Cubist Monogram. So we will find Cubist Monogram, and there's Curly Monogram, Cubist Monogram, and you can see the difference in the decoration that they have for it. So we'll pick that, and I'm just going to hit apply here, and now you're going to see that changed right there. We can tell that stitch is too long, and it's got 3 trims there. And because that stitch is so long, it's going to read that as trim. So we're going to have to scale this down just a little bit in order for it to work. We're roughly 77 millimeters, 76 wide. Now I'm going to move over to the monogram settings. And we've got our monogram height, which is roughly 50%. And we've got our decorations. So I'm going to click on select here. And these are the decorations that we have available to us. And I can click, on that one. And when I hit OK, it's going to apply it. And you're going to see it come out there. We can go in here and go back to our monogram. And we can look at more of our decorations here. This is actually the one I really liked when I was looking at them earlier. So that's the one that we're going to use. I'll go ahead and hit OK. And it's going to apply it. I do still have to deal with that issue of that being too big. Now we're at 169.02 millimeters, which is roughly a lot. Let's go ahead and we're going to pop up our calculator here, and we'll go 169 divided by roughly 25.5. So we're looking at about 6 inches there. If we want to go 4 inches, multiply that by 25.5, we're looking at 102 millimeters is where we want to sit at. So I'm just going to grab up here, and I'm going to go 102 millimeters. It's going to scale the whole thing down to now we're at a little bit more manageable of a size. And if I unselect it here, you can see that it stopped doing those trims on the stitches because now those stitches are long enough to be sewn. So we're going to go ahead and select the whole thing here. Now it comes down to what settings are we going to use. Now for my particular object that I'm going to do, and I can even do this if I double click on it here. I can go into the border underlay, boom, there, and we can actually look at the general underlays that I can apply. For this one, I want to do let's go with a zigzag and then a contour, and I don't want to use the default sequence. I actually want to change it, and so I'm going to change it there so that that sews first, that sews second, and I can hit apply and it'll change that. I could change some of the contour settings, but I don't really feel that that's necessary right now. I just wanted to change the order for myself. So now we've got that, and I can just do contour and parallel there and make sure that it's going to go. As far as pull compensation goes, I do want to add a little bit of pull comp. I don't want to add a ton, but I just want to add a little bit because this is going to be on a little bit thicker of an item. And so I'm going to go with, let's say a 0.2 pull comp there to get that so that it's going to adjust where I want it to. Now, I'm going to explain what a few of these symbols are, just so you guys are aware when you're looking at your software. You're not like, wait a minute, what does this do? Why is this here? So I have this selected. I do have 3D view on, so you can turn that on and off, toggle it back and forth. But we're looking at these two lines. We're gonna take a look at this little black dot right here. Hopefully you guys can see it, and this little black dot right there. One of them has a little plus and one of them has a little minus. That is my angle of inclination, or my stitch angle. So as you can see here on the S, these two here oppose each other, and you can see that the stitches run in that direction. And as it moves around, you can see that the stitches are following those areas of inclination. So this tells the computer, I want the stitch angles to be this direction or this direction at this point, and turn the stitches as it's coming into that location. The green dot is the start point. So if I move this, moved a little too much. If I grab onto that little start point, and if it's going to let me here, we will go ahead and grab it here and see if it's just going to let me move the start point. And it doesn't look like it wants to let me move the start point. We'll go into node edit and see if it lets me pull it there. And it doesn't look like it's going to let me grab it, which is, you know, it's okay. It's not what I wanted to show, but it's okay that I can't move it right now. But I can still explain what it is. So the green dot is going to be the start point. This is where your machine's going to tie in. It's going to begin the embroidery. So on this letter E, it's going to tie in. It's going to do this bar coming this direction. More than likely, it'll run up here to the top, and it'll sew this piece. And then it'll sew this piece coming down, and then this piece. And this red triangle is where it's going to stop. So the green circle is the go point. The red circle is the stop point. And these two objects are close enough that it's actually going to sew across. And I can tell you that that distance right there, without even measuring it, it's going to be below 3 millimeters because my trim threshold is 3 millimeters, which means that if the distance between those two objects are more than 3 millimeters, that it's going to put a trim in there. If I wanted it to trim, I could, change that to like a 1 millimeter, and now you can see that that's forced a trim in there, and it's not going to be there. I could also come in here and we can change that to 3 millimeters. I can tell it to always, of course, I always want lock stitches around trims. But I could tell it that I want it to always trim or never trim or just trim. So I'm going to leave it to just trim because I want it to trim when it meets that threshold. I can if I want. Yeah, I'm just going to change that down to 2. See if it gets rid of it. So that got rid of that trim there for me. Okay. So that is the basics of this monogram. It's going to be those two colors. It's going to be on here. They've got it as needle 3. And I'm looking for the other needle color. Across the bottom, I want to say that that is needle number 1, but what we can do is we can go here into sequence view. You can see that it's one sequence. And just kind of look at a couple of the options here. We've got our transform, shape, insert, process. We could do outline to segments, text to segments, which is what I would actually do. And when I break it into text to segments, you're going to see here that our sequence view is going to change. And now I've got the 3 letters as satin pass, 1, 2, 3. And the border as separate. So we've got needle 3 and needle 5. So when I go to the machine and I program it in, I'm going to say, hey, I want this inner piece to be needle 3, this outer piece to be needle 5, or I can change those colors based on my machine. But let's just take a look here at a couple more settings. I want to make sure that we have everything set. I've got a density of 0.4. I'm going to change that to a 0.38 just to add a few more stitches in there. It's not like there's a lot of small spaces, and we'll see how that looks out when we run a test sew. And we can go ahead and I can drag here. I've got my stitch player ribbon showing, so I can turn that off. I can turn it back on. This is going to be kind of like a slow redraw to where I can take it here and I can unselect it so that we don't see that. And I can see how it's going to sew these and in what order. And we'll just kind of watch it go through the sewing process here. It'll go up there. It'll do those pieces and up there. And it'll move the S. And now we're going up the sides, across to the top, and back down this other side. And we'll finally end up over there. Now, a couple more icons I want to show you guys here that I can see that I think would be good to explain. This little scissor icon right here means that it's going to execute a trim. So it's going to do a lock stitch. It's going to trim the thread right there. This C right here, it's actually going to trim right there just like that. But that C also stands for color change. So that's after it runs these 3 letters. I know that there's going to be a color change and it's going to do this segment here. But that is the process of running a monogram in Pulse Composer level, getting it all set up, ready to go onto the machine. And I'm going to put this on the machine, I'll run it, and then I'll add a few pictures at the end of this video of the finished sew out so you guys can take a look. All right, guys, this concludes this video. I'm going to add a couple photos here after this. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you want to join the conversation with us embroidery nerds, you can join over on our Discord channel. You can find that at links.embnerd.com. You can also join our Facebook group on Facebook. It's the Embroidery Nerd group. And if you have questions, you can drop them down below or go and join the conversation. Thank you guys for hanging out with me, and we'll catch you next time.